General election voters are a little bit different. There are some who've argued you're too far over to the left.
Corporate Democrats and liberal media are back at it again, and by that I mean attacking their left flank, capitulating to the right because it's what the voters want. However, the left is stronger than ever before, and you can kind of tell that the owners and executives out there are starting to get a little nervous. And now they are trying to make the left look all feckless and weak, and yet, as Abdul Al-Sayed has been saying in Michigan, these policies that the left is advocating for are popular and not even all that radical. And yet the media is still challenging people like Abdul because he's against Israel.
I've just been clear about what I'm running on. I want to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all. These are things that are broadly popular across my state because they're the right thing to do.
So there are people who argue that these are broadly popular, particularly in a primary. General election voters are a little bit different. There are some who've argued you're too far over to the left, and there are some who argue that you're calling Israel's actions in Gaza genocide, puts you outside of the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
Well, I'll tell you this. Everywhere I go, I've been to over 100 different cities, more than 400 public events. I've never met somebody who's like, hey, listen, I just want more money in politics, less money in my pocket, and Medicare for none. The truth of this is that they're actually really quite popular. The problem with it is this, is that too often both Democrats and Republicans, we have these bipartisan consensus around issues that are critical to people's lives because both parties tend to take money from the same corporations that want to rig the system against us. There is nobody that I've met. I've talked to folks who voted for Donald Trump 3 times who come up to me and say, I'm supporting you. And the reason why is they say, you're actually America first. You actually want to make sure that I have health care. You don't take money from the corporations that buy off either side of the aisle.
And this is such a common theme, right? We've been seeing this. The American people at large are anti-Israel, especially amongst Democrats. And yet the media is still pushing this narrative that being anti-Israel won't work in a general, right? It won't work. It's too extreme. It's too out there. And yet, broadly speaking, that is the popular position, especially amongst the Democratic Party. So just another example of that, let's take a look at this panel that just shows just how far beyond they think some of these positions are. So this panel here is talking a little bit about Zohran Mamdani and some of the candidates supporting, and yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect. Here we go.
The affordability agenda has many voices, and at a time when the Democratic Party is still searching its way out of the 2024 campaign, I feel like every week we're in the coroner's office reviewing another autopsy. It's not just about your spine.
Those autopsies that we didn't get for like a year, and then when we did get, they were like not even done. It was like bullet point list. Right, those autopsies? Okay, cool. Just making sure we're on the same page.
The brain and your heart. It's about making sure that you have an agenda that inspires the American people, whether you live in Washington, D.C., Seattle, New York, that, yeah, they may be moving in that direction, but most Democrats are pragmatic. They're centrist. They're also bold in their solution. They understand that progressives want a voice within the party. But I don't believe that this so-called energy is going to carry us forward unless we can build coalitions, and coalitions that can...
Coalitions, right. So like that vote blue no matter who thing, unless, of course, it's a Democratic socialist or a socialist candidate who's actually been able to win primaries. And then, of course, the liberal establishment, Democrats are totally against said candidate, right? We've seen that time and time again. So I don't know what you're talking about, coalitions here, right? The left has been trying to build coalitions with the centrists for a decade, and you've just been pushing them to the side. And talking about policy positions here, the only people with policy positions are the progressives. So just complete and utter bullshit coming from this panel right here. But we're about to see a very interesting character talking about governing, and you'll see what I mean in a second.
Earn us the votes of the American people.
Chris?
Look, this is fine. You know, in this post...
yeah, that's right. They got Chris Christie, the most popular governor of all time, of course, with polling at, 17% when he left office? Yeah, let's hear what he has to say about leading.
2024 period. For the rise of folks like Mamdani, they have to show they can actually do the job. He's in the easy part right now. He gets to give speeches. He gets to wear a Knicks jersey. He gets to, run a parade, which I was there. It was sketchy in terms of the way the city helped to run.
He's off to a pretty good start, though, isn't he?
But John, I mean, even he's off to a pretty good start. What does that mean? He has not yet accomplished any of what he talked about.
Oh, but the New York City deficit is down to zero. He's been filling potholes across the city. He's actually forced landlords to actually fulfill tenant obligations that they've been neglecting for years. Mamdani's also been pushing for higher taxes on the billionaires that live inside of New York City, including that one-time property tax. He's pushing a lot in just 6 months' time, and he's actually gotten the governor to go along with him, getting childcare. So I don't know what the hell Chris Christie's talking about here.
out in his campaign.
He's been in office.
Well,
Childcare expansion has occurred. Potholes are being fixed. Snow shoveling occurred.
You've driven to New York. Potholes are being fixed.
Of course you haven't. And
that's why, you want to believe the rhetoric the Mamdani people put out. They're fixing things. He hasn't done anything yet. I'm not saying he can't. He has not. So to say he's off to a good start means he hasn't thrown up on his shoes. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, okay, Chris Christie, good for you. I think we're done with that for now. Chris, who are you to talk? I love it. I find it so hilarious when Chris Christie is on these panels because he made this like anti-Trump push back in 2016 or whatever it was. And then now he's just been like this liberal media establishment darling. And it's like, dude, no, you're this conservative guy who's always been like anti-Democrat, trying to tell the Democrats how to run their party. Why are we listening to this guy, right? Why are we listening to an opposition figure giving notes on the party, right? It's just absolutely ridiculous. But Zoran Mamdani, because he's actually a good, productive, and likable leader, unlike Chris Christie, does not back down from his stance on AIPAC or leftist positions because, again, it is morally just and the correct position to have.
Now, I want to be very clear. We're talking about a status quo where children are being killed on a daily basis. More than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military since the so-called ceasefire. Even an Al Jazeera journalist, Ahmed Wishah, was killed this past Saturday by an Israeli strike. And when I am speaking about AIPAC, I'm speaking about an organization that has been supportive of the status quo, that has fought any attempt to actually deliver safety to people not just in Palestine, but frankly, through much of the region. And it is a status quo for immorality. It is one that I will not accept. And when it comes to the way in which they defend the status quo, oftentimes they defend it through direct contributions, as we are seeing right now in New York 13. Oftentimes they also support the status quo through dark money, by filtering money that would have previously been directly from AIPAC, now through other shell organizations whose identities of their contributors are only made clear after an election. And I think that it is important that when we ask ourselves how such death and destruction is happening overseas, we also name those who allow it to take place.
What Zoran is talking about here with these AIPAC, shell pack organization things is how AIPAC is actually channeling millions of dollars through shell packs in U.S. midterms, right? They have been prevalent in multiple elections, trying to sink pro-Palestinian, progressive voices from winning through this funding apparatus that actually never says AIPAC, right? But instead things like Chicago Progressive Partnership or Affordable Chicago Now, for instance, only for them to be actually puppet PACs that get millions of dollars from AIPAC or affiliated organizations to push ads and campaigns without ever actually saying they are AIPAC because, as this activist says, they are so unpopular amongst the Democratic Party that they have to hide themselves. We have to keep exposing them and looking under every rock to see whether or not this shell pack or that shell pack is funded by AIPAC. It's so lame, right? It's so lame, but Zoran is like correct in calling it out, and yet the media is still so anti what they're doing. Just take a look at this quick Fox News segment from some of the races out in New York. It's so embarrassing.
And the races are seen as a test of Mamdani's influence, but really a fight over Israel when you look at all the rhetoric here. He called AIPAC the other day, Dana and Bill, a pro-Israel lobbying group. He called them monsters and backed challengers who critics say are just too critical of Israel, like Congressman Dan Goldman, who is Jewish, now challenged by Mamdani's pick, former city comptroller Brad Lander.
The framing here is crazy. Like, of course, it's Fox. What do you expect? But it's so clear the agenda they're trying to push here, right? Being like, all of these candidates are evil monsters and they're really bad. And the one specific case is when they're calling out Brad Lander because they say his opponent, they mentioned that his opponent is Jewish, but so is Brad Lander. And they don't think to mention that because he's anti-Israel. You can't be Jewish and anti-Israel, like that's not possible. And yet, of course it is. It's a thing. But of course, Zoran and the city of New York aren't the only ones slowing down, right? They aren't the only ones pushing this message. Here is James Tallarico out in Texas showcasing how he understands what voters actually want and need versus all this name-calling culture war bullshit.
I honestly get the sense that people across the spectrum, across the state, are tired of this politics as professional wrestling, right? You got these old guys lathered up in their fake tan, throwing corny nicknames right at each other. And those corny nicknames, they don't lower the price of groceries. They don't lower the price of gas. They don't lower the cost of housing and childcare and prescription drugs. Yeah. They don't give anybody their voting rights. Right. They don't address the maternal mortality crisis. And so what people are hungry for is elected officials who are going to do the work, who are going to bring both parties together and pass legislation that's actually going to make their lives easier and better and less stressful.
Exactly. This is the messaging we need more of from Democratic politicians like James Talarico, like Zoran Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders. The supposed party of the working class for far too long has been focused on the needs of corporations and billionaires and special interests, and less of their own constituents who are struggling to get by when we have literal trillionaires walking around like everything is fine. Everything is not fine. And Democrats pretending like giving tax breaks to black-owned businesses with more than 50% bisexual employees that sell biodegradable pool noodles only on summer holidays, that's not going to fix anything, right? It's not. It's not progressive, and in fact, it's harming the image of the party as a whole by capitulating to right-wing framing and attitudes on these issues, by lowering taxes and focusing on, small business owners when, yes, there needs to be some help for small businesses, but what about the workers? What about the people who actually work at those businesses? It's tiring. Because as Abdul Al-Sayed says right here, what are we fighting for if not for our people?
For so many of us who believe in this place, on the eve of our 250th anniversary, the question we got to ask ourselves is, what is America for, if not her people? You should not be able to drive 15 miles in 10 years of life expectancy. You should not be able to go without the health care you need in this country because this is the richest, most powerful country in the world. This fight is a righteous fight about the future.
Yes, exactly. And the fight will continue, right? Democratic socialists are in a better spot than ever before, and the establishment and the media and the press is terrified because the left stands for something. The left is growing, and we will not stop this movement. So if you want to be a part of it, be sure to subscribe to US Democratic Socialists for more news like this, and don't forget to leave a comment and like this video. I would love to hear your thoughts about this and more down below, but I think that's going to do it for me. I'm Iago Lashua. Have a good day. Goodbye.